Hey guys, so this is a clip from Piers Morgan. Yeah, the guy. I don't really like his shows. His takes on politics. He's kind of wishy washy sometimes. Sometimes you think he believes in this, but he now believes in something else. And after that Cristiano Ronaldo's interview, man, I kind of like dislike him. But if you guys are soccer fans, you guys will know what I'm talking about. But anyway. Um, anyway, he had this video where in London, I think somewhere in UK, there was a school that the students were identifying as cats. Yes, cats. Let's check this stuff out.
Welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored. It wasn't so long ago that when teachers asked children what they want to be, they meant what profession. Now they're asking them which animal, object, or beast they may identify as and tailoring their lessons accordingly. This isn't satire, it's a genuine story. It's true. It's going on in schools up and down the country. And for those of us who have warned for years about the inevitable consequence of limitless self identity, it sadly won't come as a surprise. But it is shocking. This story begins with a video that circulated yesterday of a teacher in England scolding two pupils for refusing to accept that one of their classmates identified as a cat.
When they're like genuinely unwell. And they've gone, yeah, they're crazy.
You're questioning their identity.
I wasn't a question. I was just saying about the gender. I didn't say anything about them.
But where do you get this idea from? There's only two genders. Gender is not linked to not linked to the parts that you were born with. Gender is about how you identify. There is actually three large concepts because you can be born intersex. You can be born with male and female body parts or hormones. In terms of gender, there are lots of genders.
If you have a friend, you're a girl, you have a bitch or boy. Yeah.
But you identify with the gender of the sexual organ that you're born with or you're with. That's basically what you're saying, which is really despicable.
Despicable. So at the age of 13, those students who were wise enough to express honestly held opinion, which is one most people in the world would share, well, for that, their own teacher says they're despicable. And if they hold that view, they should go to a different school. That view being that girls have vaginas and boys have penises. That's so despicable, they would have to leave the school. I think what's despicable in that exchange is what that teacher said. The Daily Telegraph today followed up, were interviewing pupils at schools across the United Kingdom for a major investigation. It read like a farce, that they made it up, but it was actually true. They came up with all sorts of examples from all over the country that looked like we were living on, frankly, a different planet to the one that most of us think we're living on. Which makes sense because some of the kids they write about are identifying as alien life forms literally on a different planet. They say that children in high schools are being allowed to self-identity as cats, horses, dinosaurs, even a moon, not the moon, a moon. And they're deadly serious about this. Often this causes disruption in lessons, the Telegraph reported, because in some cases they'll only communicate in animal noises. Pupils at schools where children identify as cats complain to the newspaper that classes are dominated by the children because they insist on meowing. This is not a joke. This is serious. One pupil at a state secondary school in Wales said a fellow pupil feels very discriminated against if you do not refer to them as cat self. Telegraph discovered that a pupil at one high school is insisting on being addressed as a dinosaur, another as a horse. One wears a cape and wants to be acknowledged, like I said, as a moon.
Do any other, like when you go out of the West, do they have these problems, this gender confusion, this insane, like this, like is there such a thing? Like, because I'm from Nigeria, we don't have any gender. I've never seen a gender dysphoric person before. Here it's like there's like a skyrocket of it. Like overnight, people just started coming out of the woodworks with gender dysphoria, and you gotta, my gender is this, and there's a 2001 kind of genders, and you gotta call me this. Like only in the West do you see. I doubt that any other continent on the planet have this problem. I can't imagine. I can't imagine Africa having this problem. I can't imagine Asia having this problem. Eastern Europe, you name it. I can't imagine. Only in the West do you see this nonsense. Jesus Christ.
The children are allowed to wear items like cat's ears, while other human identifying children are rebuked for untucked shirts. Well, enough is enough. Put it this way. What would you feel if I said I'm a cat? Seriously. I do actually feel quite feline. I took in 2 kittens in January, my first pets I've had since I was a teenager. 2 little Burmese kittens called Dennis and Bobby, for Arsenal fans, named after Bergkamp and Pires. And I frankly now feel like one of them. I feel like I identify as a cat. I snack a lot. I enjoy regular naps. I have higher than average intelligence. I'm curious and inquisitive. I have a natural born predatory instinct when it comes to attacking rivals who attack me. And everywhere I go, people want to stroke my chin and call me cute. So yes, I'm a cat. But there's one problem. I'm a human, really. I'm not actually a cat. Scientifically and biologically, I'm a human being. Incontrovertibly, it's a fact. Much as I'd like to enjoy the benefits of being a cat, 20 hours naps, no taxes, meals on demand when I cry, I can't because I'm not a cat. Now, if all of this is shocking to you, it's probably because you haven't been paying attention. Most of these teachers are probably trying to do the right thing, terrified of being reported for bigotry for failing to indulge the gender whims of children. And the children themselves have grown up in a world where they're literally taught there are hundreds of genders and anybody can identify as anything they want. But they can't. And when something like this happens, society changes so radically and so fast and becomes so ridiculous that it causes complete chaos. And we surely should be questioning this. It cannot simply be the case that minority groups are right. End of question. And anyone who raises questions about it is automatically a bigot or a transphobe. I'm not bigoted or transphobic, but I do think this is insanity. And the next time a child identifies as a cat at school in this country, they should be told that as a mark of deep respect for their new identity, they will be taken out of the classroom, put in a cage with other actual cats who will scratch and bite them all day. They'll be given water and Whiskas tuna chunks for lunch, taken for walks on leads at break time, and must use a litter tray for a toilet, one that won't be changed for several days. Trust me, they'll soon be re-identifying as humans by teachers. Joining me now is the veteran LGBT activist and human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell, political journalist Ava Santina, and by the best-selling author and conservative commentator Douglas Murray. Well, Douglas, you're safely over there in the United States, so let me start with you before the fun starts here. This stuff reads like a joke, but it's really not funny when you get into the weeds of it. This is limitless self-identity gone bonkers.
Yeah, it's the very stupid results of a very stupid ideology being rolled out by very stupid people. Basically, everything has come unstuck in recent years by the ever-expanding alphabet acronym people, where the fight for gay rights and minority sexual rights turned into this demand, this claim that there was no such thing as biological sex. As Peter Tatchell and others well know, the argument for gay rights was won by saying, we're just like the rest of you. It was also won by saying, you know, we just want to live and let live. Yet the gender ideologues have done something totally different. They've said, you don't have the right to have your own say in this. We are right, and you have to agree with us. They say, we're here, and instead of saying we're here, we're queer, and just get used to it, it's we're here, and as a result, biological reality doesn't exist. Well, clearly, this very, very idiotic ideology is causing havoc. Just today, Piers, there's another tape from a school in Scotland where some poor boy is having to explain to his teacher that there's only 2 biological sexes and that the gender woo-woo stuff is nonsense. And yet again, it's the student having to educate the teacher because the teacher has been indoctrinated into stupidity due to the gender ideologues.
Okay, Ava, you're laughing. Why?
Well, it's just quite amusing, really. I mean, we're talking about children that are 12 and 13. I mean, when I was at school, I had a girl who identified as a horse, but not in this sort of like problematic way that we're now labeling it. She didn't actually think she was a horse. She was just quite strange and walked around and, you know.
But
made
nobody
animal
at the
noises.
school then, no teachers would have tolerated that in the way that this is now having to be tolerated.
No teacher would have tolerated bullying of that child. And that's what this teacher in Sussex has done. They've said it's not acceptable for boys in that class to take the mickey out of someone who's obviously clearly just a child and they're exploring their imagination.
Who says they're a cat?
Yes, but Piers, they're 12.
And he's actually interfering with the lessons by talking in cat language, including meowing. And if people don't go along with this, refusing to cooperate.
Yes.
That is not just having a bit of fun being a cat. That is actually assuming the identity of an animal that this person is not,
Yeah.
and then insisting everybody else conform to it. That is madness.
That's not what's happening. What's happening is there's a child who's slightly more imaginative than their peers, and they are acting out this sort of fallacy, and that's fine. But to make it about trans, or this is where it gets dangerous, okay? The Telegraph...
Oh, it's very damaging to trans people. I agree.
Right, okay.
I agree with that.
The reason it's most damaging, the Telegraph have been reporting this, it's up 400% in the last couple of years, them reporting trans issues. I don't understand why they've got this weird obsession with going into
Let me explain why.
classrooms.
Let me explain why.
No, it's quite gross.
Let me explain why. When you have in women's sport 6'4" biological males destroying biological females at elite sport level in swimming pools, on racetracks, in other sports, that's when it becomes a full frontal assault on women's rights to fairness and equality.
Yeah.
And when you include them going into dressing rooms and so on and mixing with biological females, then there's a safety issue. When you have, as we had in Scotland, a male rapist identifying at his trial as a woman to get put into a woman's prison and being sent there by the female boss of Scotland at the time, who's now obviously in her own troubles, that is why this is happening. Kids are watching all this stuff, and as kids do, they want a piece of the action.
No, Piers, don't be ridiculous. There is nothing, there's no similarity between a child wanting to be a cat when they're 12 years old and someone competing in the Olympics.
Oh, there is.
There is
Peter,
no comparison.
You and I have had a lot of civilized conversations about all this, right? And I want to continue that. I don't think that the trans community gets helped at all by any of this, right? But I don't think it's the media obsessing. I think what you're seeing is, as the trans community get ever more active and populous, if you like, for want of a better phrase, and their activists get more aggressive, when they go to battle on things like women's sport, they're losing everyone and they're piling mockery onto the trans community.
If we can go back to the Telegraph article,
yeah,
it's quite mischievous. Out of the, I don't know, million or more pupils in our schools, they come up with 5 examples. 5 examples out of a million. Now, that's wrong. I agree it's wrong. But, as Ava says, the kids are just acting out fantasies. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be Robin Hood.
But that's fine. That's fine. But the schools should not be tolerating it.
But the schools are not.
A teacher should not be saying, if you believe that women have vaginas and men have penises, you have to leave the school. That is complete nonsense.
No.
Right?
In this particular case, the Telegraph cited this handful of examples. They were by teachers, individual teachers. They were not school policy. And at least one case, the school disowned the teacher and the policy and said that it wouldn't happen again.
But what about this case in Rye College?
Well, yeah, I'm sure there are some examples of excesses. But on the basis of those exceptions, you can't make a generalized attack upon the school system and suggest that all our kids are being propagandized in this way, because it's simply not.
But when you hear that teacher,
Yes, they are. Don't be fooled by this man. Yes, they are. You got to know what your kids are learning in school, bro. You got to pay attention. Jesus Christ.
Douglas, back in. When you hear that teacher, there's clear evidence of what we've all been fearing has been going on, which is a teacher caught on tape literally spewing nonsensical gender ideology propaganda.
But one teacher.
Yes,
only one teacher.
One
out of
teacher,
tens of thousands.
Well, hang on. One teacher caught on tape. Right, there've been many other instances of this being reported, but no one's actually had it on tape. It's a bit like, I would liken it to the Partygate scandal, when we finally got a video of the people having what was clearly a party. There've been lots of rumours about it. So now we have a teacher clearly on tape doing this.
But it's not official school
So,
policy.
if I may,
Schools across the
if I
country
may.
are
Well,
not,
she's still, to
I'm
my
not
knowledge,
sanctioning this.
she is still working at that school. Douglas.
If I may, first of all, Ava rather unfortunately misspoke earlier when she said that the schoolgirl in question was acting out a fallacy. I think you meant a fantasy. But actually, she is acting out a
Thanks, Douglas.
fallacy.
Thanks ever
a
so much.
fallacy.
But do you know what I find
Actually, she was
fascinating?
right with
which has
fallacy.
been
Do you know what's
a
fascinating
fallacy
about
which
Douglas?
has been propagated, a fallacy which has been propagated by gender ideologues and is doing profound damage to gay people, among others, in our society, as well as women.
Like
And
you
let me
ever
explain very
cared.
quick. Let me
Ever cared.
explain very quickly why. I can't quite hear you. I can hear you muttering something. Let me quickly explain why. A poll that just got published in the United States showed that among the general population, support for gay marriage has been starting to decline in the last year. Why is that? It's because the arguments that actually brought about liberal rights for all minorities in the last few decades have started to get turned on their head and turned against people. What is the source of that? It is the gender ideology movement. What is the tripwire for the general public? It is children. It is people learning that their children are being taught nonsensical things. It is being seen by the wider public, most of whom are heterosexual and don't need to identify as cis or anything else. It is being seen from that vantage point as the LGBTQIA plus movement losing control of itself. And so a backlash is starting. And the backlash is coming because people are lying to children and are using children for medical experiments. There's nothing
that's
funny about that.
ridiculous.
There's nothing that should cause levity in that. It should be treated by adults seriously.
Okay,
No,
Ava.
So, Douglas, it's really important, actually, all of that point that you've just brought up. It's very on brand for you because, you know, you like to stoke fear. You've actually made a career out of it. I'll take you back to your book, The Strange Death of
Ava.
Europe. And you made a big fright. You know, you frightened the entire public about your thoughts on Europe. And we ended up in Brexit. You weren't the sole contributor to that, but you were a big
Can we
voice
stick
in
onto
that.
the
Ava,
I
theme
will,
of
I
this
If I
will.
may
And then,
say
you know,
so
now
very
we're talking
quickly.
about LGBTQ.
If I may say so
and you're
very
creating.
quickly,
Hang on,
Piers.
you spoke. I'm speaking.
No,
I'm speaking.
I'll
You spoke.
reply.
This is, I mean,
And
what-
I'll reply.
hello. I haven't
Let
finished.
Ava speak, please.
Now, back
Douglas.
on the trans issue, when you're talking about LGBTQ, what you've just done there is basically say that the whole of America, who have historically had a problem with gay marriage, are now turning on it because a couple of children in a classroom in Sussex want to be a cat. If you can't see the ridiculousness in that argument, I can't help you.
No.
The bigger
Well,
issue
first of
is
all, I must
there is no
respond
such
to
thing
Ava,
as gender
Piers.
ideology. We
I
all
must
have
respond
gender
to Ava.
identities. You identify as a man, and I fully respect you.
Well, no, hang on. I don't identify as a man. I was born a biological
Yeah.
man.
What do you mean
Yes,
That's
identify
where
as
this
a
whole
man?
thing.
Piers.
Like these people, when you hear them talk sometimes, what do you mean you identify as a man and I respect you? Fuck out of here. What do you mean I identify as a man? I am a man. I don't need to identify as anything. What in God's name?
You need to let me
goes
comment.
rogue. I'll bring you back in, Douglas, as I say. That's where the whole debate goes rogue. You were born a biological male. You were born a biological female. Douglas, biological male. This is just a fact, right?
No,
Once you start saying there are hundreds of genders and you can identify as anything you want,
No.
you're going to end up with kids at school going, I'm a horse. And you've got to treat me like a horse.
Piers, you're confusing two things.
No, I'm not.
Sex and gender.
I'm not.
I
because
accept
they are being conflated.
biological sex is one thing which I totally accept, and so do 99% of the people in the LGBT plus community. Gender is something different. Gender identity is how you see yourself.
And do you
of
believe
course-
it's limitless?
No, I don't believe it's limited.
What's the limit?
Well, there is basically male and female and intersex, but there are people who have different gender identities.
No, but how many genders are there?
Well, there is no fixed number.
So what's the limit?
I don't see a particular limit.
There's no limit. So when you said there's no, you
No.
said there is a limit. Now you admit there's no limit.
Sorry. There is male and female.
Is there a
identity.
limit or not to
There's
the number of
intersex
genders?
identity.
No, that's sex.
But
On gender, is there a limit to the number of genders?
well, there are some people who are asexual. That's an
No,
identity.
there are
Some
the
people-
BBC has
Yeah.
put in education videos. There are 100 plus genders.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with
So
that.
what is the limit? What's the number?
What is
Well,
the number?
I'm not going to specify a particular number, but it's
Right.
it's very small.
But where do
Very
you draw?
small.
Where do you draw the line?
Well, I draw the line based on science and evidence. And we know that there is a thing called intersex, where people are born with a mixture of both.
That is
male,
literally what it says
both-
on.
both
That's what it
male
says on
and
the tin.
female.
That is intersex.
Yeah.
People are born with chromosomes from both,
Yeah.
right? That is a medical condition.
Yeah.
That's inarguable, right? We're talking about gender.
But
Douglas,
trans identity is also a biological
I
fact.
know, but once I
rooted
I know.
rooted in brain structures and processes.
I understand it. But
That's
once
what
people-
new science
that's not
shows.
But
true.
once you get into 100 genders, people
Yeah,
can
we're not
literally...
debating 100 genders.
Well, actually, the BBC has taught kids that. This is back to Douglas's point about affecting the brains of impressionable young kids.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the BBC if they're saying
Okay.
100 plus genders.
Okay, Douglas.
Very quickly, I don't know, Ava, anything about your career. I don't know if you have
I love
one.
Douglas.
But you did try to imply
I
that
love
you
the way
knew
he
something
talks.
about mine, and you just showed you know nothing about it, because actually my 2017 bestseller, The Strange Death of Europe, was not about the EU. So you should learn at some point to read more than the title
It was
of the book
about
before
Europe.
commenting upon it.
It was about, and it was about
So let me-
migration.
Let me very quickly.
And how
let me
rude are you?
quickly-
How rude are
very
you?
quickly. Very
You
quickly.
built a
Talk.
career out of fear mongering, and you're now importing
but
those
you haven't even
evangelical
built a
American
career.
ideas onto UK
You
television.
haven't even
It's
built
very
a
odd.
career, have you? You haven't
What are
even
you
built a
talking
career.
about? I'm on
So
the
let me
same panel
finish
as
for
you,
a
Han, and we're
second.
getting the same.
Do you know what? I'm going to wrap it up by saying you've both got wonderful careers, or you wouldn't be on Piers Morgan Uncensored. Before I
Wow.
let you go, Peter, though, I want a quick reaction. Elton John today reacted to the Philip
Man,
Schofield
okay.
scandal.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. I swear to God, this is ridiculous. Man, children identifying as cats. This is just sad, man. This is yeah. I did a video on that study, that Gallup study that they did. Yeah, 69% of Americans, hell no. People are pushing back on this. People are, because it's getting out of control. And Douglas Murray, I think that's his name, he got it spot on. When you start messing with people's children, yeah, things will turn very quickly. Things will turn very quickly. Yeah, don't mess with people's children. I swear to God. Like, when you start having children, when they go to school, you're afraid of what they're going to learn. Before, it used to be children went to school, they learn math, English, science, they come home, maybe sometimes they play sports, they have extracurricular activities. That's it. Nowadays, you got to wonder who is teaching your children. How progressive are they? Do they have pronouns on their bios? What the hell are they teaching you? Yeah, there was a video I did one time. There was in math class, they had pride and all this gender stuff in a math class. Math. How is that even possible in a math class? This is disgusting. It is disgusting. But anyway, if you like that video, please hit that like button, leave a comment, and please subscribe.